Well, absolutely, but don't even believe that there were 5 options. What you really saw were Harry's and Meghan's fantasy narrative, which they call the truth. They are at the moment facing a real crisis. Meghan and Harry's crisis, completely of their own making, is they have no major projects, no major money earners. And so they're more desperate than ever.
The implosion of the Sussexes. Meghan Markle's Archewell charity scam and As Ever lies have finally been exposed, and an astonishing double blow for the fake Duchess.
She is hoping that she's going to become a billionaire of all of this, which again is total insanity. I think the woman's expectations are so unrealistic.
The latest revelation from Tom Bower has people talking everywhere. According to his findings, Meghan Markle may be facing a serious financial mess in 2026, and it's the kind of story her PR team probably wishes would stay quiet. Reports claim there are around $23 million worth of unsold jam products sitting untouched in a warehouse. That's not a small hiccup. That's a massive pile of inventory with nowhere to go. And it doesn't stop there.
Their problem is that they've got no future. I mean, as ever, all her products, of course, is a complete disaster. She's got no Netflix series. She hasn't got any project at all. And they are literally wallowing in a maze where to go. And so predictably.
The Archewell Foundation was reportedly listed as delinquent by California regulators, while a Netflix project connected to the couple allegedly ranked 1,217 on the platform. Critics say the momentum they once had is fading fast. Some commentators even claim Meghan once believed she was on track to become a billionaire, but the reality now looks far more complicated. Tom Bower has made bold predictions about the couple before, and supporters say many of them ended up surprisingly accurate. Now he's warning that the situation may only get more intense from here. The big mistake people make, he argues, is assuming Harry and Meghan are still sitting comfortably on endless wealth. The reality behind the headlines might be far more fragile than most people think. But Tom Bower isn't only talking about money problems. What he's pointing to is something much bigger, a slow public collapse he says he warned about years ago. And now, according to him, it's playing out right in front of everyone in a way that's almost impossible to spin or smooth over.
There's been leaked financial details from the Archewell Foundation that's quite fascinating because it shows that there's 2 donors who've given one of them $15 million and one $3 million.
Bower spent years researching Harry and Meghan. He reportedly spoke with more than 80 sources, including former staff members, royal insiders, and people connected to the entertainment industry. The picture he describes is intense, a story of huge ambition running straight into the hard wall of reality. Think about it for a moment. This is someone who stepped away from one of the most powerful royal institutions in the world, secured a $100 million Netflix deal, launched a lifestyle brand, built a charity organization, and told the public she planned to shake up the system in a big way. Now, as 2026 unfolds, Bower claims the results are finally visible, and he says the evidence speaks for itself. And if you follow his argument, the first place to look closely is the Archewell Foundation, because he believes that's where the most serious questions about the couple begin to appear. When Harry and Meghan launched the Archewell Foundation back in 2020, it was presented as a major humanitarian project. The organization was named after their son Archie and promoted as a mission built around compassion, service, and meaningful change. That was the message shared with the world, a fresh start focused on helping people and supporting communities. But Tom Bower describes a very different picture. He points to the foundation's own publicly filed 990 tax documents and says the numbers tell a story that's far less inspiring than the branding suggested. According to those filings, 2021 was the peak year when Archewell reportedly brought in about $13 million in donations. On the surface, that sounds huge. But the momentum didn't last long. By 2024, reported donations had dropped sharply to about $2.1 million, falling from $5.3 million the previous year. At the same time, total expenses were listed at around $5.1 million, raising serious questions from critics about how the organization's finances were being managed. Now look at the numbers for a second and do the math.
It was a Channel 5 investigation as to the state of the Sussex's finances. Now, we know they didn't move to a two-bedroom cottage somewhere in the middle of nowhere. They're living in quite a large mansion in Montecito. And one of the things that Prince Harry made very public when he left the royal family, one of the things that he was quite disgruntled about was the fact that his father basically cut him off financially. So really, they were in a state where they had to make a lot of money and a lot of money fast. He blundered in a video and said, the Netflix deal was an idea that was pitched to him.
The filings suggest the organization spent far more than it brought in during that period. That's where critics started raising eyebrows. Tom Bauer points to what he believes is the most controversial detail. Out of roughly $5.1 million in reported expenses, only about $1.25 million was listed as going directly toward charitable programs. The rest, nearly $4 million, reportedly covered things like salaries, security, travel, and administrative costs. One line item that gets a lot of attention is security. Reports suggest protection costs alone may run around $2 million per year, and critics argue that such expenses connected to the couple have become a major talking point.
Years ago, we were talking about Meghan Markle running for president, and what a decline, how irrelevant they've become today. Do the Sussexes still pose an institutional risk, or are they now culturally sidelined?
An institutional risk to the British monarchy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. A huge risk.
Really?
Absolutely, because there's no doubt as they become more desperate.
Bauer has been very direct about his interpretation. He argues that Archewell functioned less like a traditional charity and more like a financial structure tied to the couple's broader business activity, including media and publishing deals. That arrangement isn't illegal. Many wealthy figures structure organizations in similar ways. But according to Bauer, there's another detail he uncovered that he believes raises even more questions. And that's where the story takes a surprising turn. At its busiest point, Archewell reportedly had only about 5 employees. Then, by the end of 2024, things shifted fast during what was described as a rebrand. Reports suggested that 2 or 3 staff members, roughly 60% of the team, were suddenly let go. Some former workers allegedly believed the charity might be shutting down altogether. Soon after, Meghan's team reportedly pushed back on that idea and clarified that the organization was continuing under a new direction. Around that same time, observers noticed the website briefly disappeared without much explanation, as the group transitioned into what was described as Archewell Philanthropies. Tom Bauer claims this fits a pattern he's talked about before. When problems appear, the messaging changes quickly. A new explanation shows up, the branding shifts, and the story moves forward. But the situation drew even more attention when California regulators issued a delinquency notice saying required paperwork had not been filed correctly. That meant the organization was temporarily not allowed to raise or distribute charitable funds until the issue was resolved.
Want to get into the details of this, Brittany, because the details here matter, given that everything Harry and Meghan do is topspin, trying to convince the world, and very often the mainstream media are sucked in, that everything's okay, but it's really not. And the first revelation in regards to Archewell is that the charity is down to just 2 staffers.
Critics argue that for a charity presenting itself as global and humanitarian, that kind of warning raises serious questions. And according to Bauer, if Archewell looks like a slow-motion problem unfolding, the story around As Ever is even more dramatic. Tom Bauer had warned years earlier that Meghan's business instincts, in his view, were often driven more by image and ambition than by careful long-term planning. Then came the launch of her lifestyle brand As Ever in April 2024, and the headlines exploded.
Harry likes to portray Meghan as Diana, but they've got absolutely nothing in common at all.
Media outlets reported that Meghan's jam products sold out within hours, creating the impression of a huge success story. But critics say the situation behind the scenes may have been more complicated. According to claims circulating in reports Bauer referenced, a closer look at the brand's store inventory suggested a massive amount of product sitting unsold. Some estimates suggested tens of thousands of items still in storage, including fruit spread gift boxes that had yet to move from warehouses. Observers even calculated that, based on slow sales periods, clearing the inventory could take years. And because many of the products are food items with expiration dates, that raises even more questions about long-term sales strategy. Reports also mentioned other large stock numbers, including orange marmalade jars, scented candles, and decorative flower sprinkles, all reportedly waiting for buyers while the initial excitement around the launch began to cool.
I believe it is clear exposure of what Archewell really is. A PR project, nothing more. It's disgusting.
It really is, Dan. And one of the things is that Harry and Meghan have always said service is universal. They're going to be doing charity in the States and all these things. And it's just completely and utterly false. It was just a lie from the very face of it. And we've seen this endlessly. Meghan praises herself constantly for being this great humanitarian. But when you really think about it, what has she done? I mean, even before she married Harry, she was part of World Vision.
Tom Bauer's explanation is blunt. In his view, the early sell-out headlines around the launch were more about marketing strategy than overwhelming demand. He claims the first release may have involved only a small batch of products, just enough to disappear quickly and spark eye-catching headlines across media outlets. According to Bauer, that early buzz was then used to suggest massive demand, which critics say may have encouraged much larger production orders. But curiosity doesn't always turn into repeat customers. Some reviewers even joked that the jam tasted similar to Smucker's, but priced at $36 a jar. Bauer also argues that Netflix's involvement with projects connected to the brand appears limited so far. In his telling, the big lifestyle empire that was imagined is now being tested by real sales numbers, not just strong PR headlines.
I'm hearing that they have huge financial problems. That you know, they are eating into capital, and that they sort of, to an extent, been for much of their marriage into some capital, and also he doesn't have that amount of money. People seem to think that because he's the king's son, he's rolling in money. He never was. I mean, in terms of Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates, he's poverty-stricken, but they have financial problems, and a part of those financial problems are that Netflix is not funding the manufacture of the produce. The way Harry and Meghan presented the deal was that they would be partners with Netflix.
Now let's talk about the Netflix angle, because this is where the situation becomes even more dramatic. When Meghan and Harry signed that reported $100 million Netflix deal, many people believed it would be their golden ticket. The expectation was huge, a powerful media partnership that could lead to documentaries, shows, global influence, and maybe even a massive lifestyle empire. But Tom Bauer argues the reality behind the scenes may be far more complicated than the headlines suggested. Netflix is a company built on data, viewership numbers, and strict performance expectations, and critics say that can make or break any project very quickly. According to Bauer's claims, the relationship between the couple and the streaming platform has faced serious tension. He suggests the partnership cooled significantly, with projects delayed, questioned, or quietly shelved as Netflix evaluated performance and audience response. Some reports have even speculated that the collaboration could eventually come to an end if expectations aren't met.
The hope was that Netflix would fund, and the fact is that Netflix's funding was very limited for the first line of what was never produced, and because they were not prepared to put up good money on something that was so highly speculative. And the proof of the pudding, Dan, is in the eating of the figures, because according to Meghan, the line was sold out within 45 minutes. That tells you that the produce was in the low thousands. Several years ago, Arnold Scarsese, the great American Canadian couturier, put me in touch with QVC to do a jewelry line. And I spoke to the head of QVC about it.
If Bauer's interpretation is right, what once looked like a guaranteed entertainment empire may now be facing some very tough reality checks. So the big question people keep asking is simple. What exactly went wrong? Tom Bauer says the situation ultimately comes down to one powerful factor: the numbers. In the streaming world, viewership data drives every decision, and platforms like Netflix closely track how audiences respond the moment a project goes live. According to Bauer, when the first major projects connected to Harry and Meghan were released, the audience response reportedly didn't meet the high expectations that had surrounded the deal. Streaming companies rely heavily on real-time engagement metrics, not just headlines or media buzz, and critics say those numbers can quickly determine whether future projects move forward.
Money is officially drying up for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. As more and more news of the dissolution of Archewell Foundation comes forward, it's very, very clear that this restructuring is due to a lack of one very, very key thing, which is money. In fact, Harry and Meghan sold themselves to a dinner table at $100,000 a pop to raise money for Archewell.
Bauer claims sources inside the industry described frustration among executives who expected stronger audience retention and wider appeal. In Hollywood and the streaming business, that kind of feedback can be a harsh reality check. At the same time, public messaging around the partnership continued to sound positive. Interviews and media coverage still highlighted collaboration and future ideas. But according to Bauer's sources, activity behind the scenes reportedly slowed down. Fewer meetings, quieter promotion, and less visible marketing support. In the entertainment industry, that kind of silence can sometimes signal that a partnership is cooling off fast.
Are they insane? What is happening? There is complete and utter chaos going on. The Meg and Harold are taking their rebrands far too literally at this point. Archewell, their charity effort, has not only changed its name from a foundation to philanthropies, which is even worse branding, I might add.
At the same time, reports suggested there may have been serious contractual pressure behind the scenes. According to Tom Bauer, large entertainment deals often include performance expectations, delivery timelines, and accountability for projects that were promised but never fully materialized. When those expectations aren't met, companies can start asking tough questions. Bauer argues that the situation wasn't just about image or reputation. It involved a massive deal reportedly valued around $100 million.
I mean, extraordinary that the non-disclosure agreements are so draconian, so watertight, that nobody dares sell their story. I mean, that is what's quite astonishingly clever of Meghan and her lawyers, to protect their reputation and all the dreadful things that have happened in Montecito behind the high walls. But my book reveals a bit more about that, my future book. But that's a tease.
In the streaming business, platforms like Netflix operate with strict standards based on audience engagement, completion rates, and long-term viewer interest. If a project doesn't perform, decisions can change quickly. Bauer also claims the tension may have had wider ripple effects. When a major partner appears uncertain, other investors and collaborators sometimes become cautious. According to critics, that hesitation can slow down future deals and partnerships. At the same time, public scrutiny continued to grow.
I do think the problem with Meghan is that she never actually says anything in interviews. It is so carefully controlled, so carefully chosen what she's going to say, that she says really pretty well nothing. Now, is it because she's got nothing to say, or is it because she is fearful that if she did move off the benign script, she would actually get into real trouble? I think it's the latter. She is clever enough to know that to retain her mystery and status, she should reveal nothing about herself.
With conversations online about product sales, charitable funding levels, and whether the brand surrounding the couple had promised more than it ultimately delivered. Tom Bauer's reporting pushes a very strong claim. In his view, what's happening isn't just a small setback or a temporary slowdown. He argues it looks more like a major financial and reputational shakeup. And in his telling, Netflix sits right in the middle of that story. According to Bauer, once the performance data started coming in, the streaming giant focused on the metrics that matter most: viewer engagement, completion rates, and repeat audiences. Those numbers, he says, told a story very different from the glowing headlines that once surrounded the deal. That's why Bauer believes the partnership cooled so dramatically. On paper, the brand surrounding Meghan and Harry still looked powerful. huge contracts, global recognition, and big announcements. But critics argue that real audience behavior is what ultimately determines whether entertainment projects survive or disappear. For people who once believed the Netflix deal made Meghan nearly unstoppable in media, Bauer's interpretation paints a very different picture. He describes a brand struggling to maintain credibility while partnerships grow uncertain and expectations become harder to meet. In the entertainment business, hype can create an explosive launch, but long-term success depends on audiences coming back again and again. Bauer claims that while many viewers may have clicked once out of curiosity, the repeat engagement that streaming platforms rely on simply wasn't strong enough.
Other expenses recorded at $2.9 million. Meanwhile, donations and grants to the group dipped from $5.3 million in 2023 to $2.1 million in 2024. Insiders skeptical of how Archewell, which doled out $1.25 million in grants in 2024, can continue. The source said if they're shooting out grants, then that's a net loss and they're not bringing in that much money.
He even describes the situation with a striking phrase: slow ghosting. In other words, fewer meetings, quieter promotion, and less visible collaboration over time. If his sources are correct, that quiet distancing might be the clearest signal yet that the relationship is fading fast. The $100 million Netflix deal that many believed would transform Harry and Meghan into global media. Powerhouses has taken a very different path than people expected. According to Tom Bauer, the project Love Meghan didn't move forward in the way early headlines suggested. Bauer points out that the show was not renewed for a third season, and critics also noted that what appeared to be 2 seasons may have actually been one production split into separate releases. That meant far less content than audiences originally imagined when the deal was first announced. Viewership discussions quickly followed. Bauer claims that rankings connected to the show and related specials were much lower than expected, despite the massive attention surrounding Meghan and the significant budget behind the partnership. For someone with worldwide name recognition and a major streaming platform, critics argue the audience numbers should have been far stronger. Bauer's personal assessment is extremely blunt. He argues the project struggled because the content didn't feel original or deeply authentic to viewers. In his view, the presentation sometimes felt overly polished and carefully staged rather than natural. Some sources he interviewed even suggested that there was intense focus on camera presentation and image, which they believe may have reduced the relaxed, personal tone audiences often respond to in lifestyle programming. Critics also pointed out differences in presentation style. Many traditional cooking hosts focus almost entirely on the food, tying their hair back, getting hands-on with the ingredients, and letting the recipes take center stage. Some viewers felt Meghan's approach leaned more toward a polished lifestyle presentation, almost like a magazine shoot brought to life on camera. According to Tom Bauer, that emphasis on appearance may have made the show feel more staged than natural for some audiences. Instead of the raw or deeply personal storytelling some viewers expected, the content often centered on flower arranging, jam making, and curating, lifestyle moments that resembled social media content. Bauer claims Netflix executives quickly realized that the audience expectations were very different from what was being delivered. Many viewers had tuned in hoping for something more dramatic or revealing, perhaps a documentary exploring royal history or personal experiences. In Bauer's interpretation, the remaining first-look deal may simply represent Netflix allowing the partnership to fade quietly without a loud public split. In entertainment terms, he describes it as the industry version of slowly not returning calls, a silent step back rather than a dramatic announcement. At the same time, while these media issues were unfolding in California, Prince Harry was back in London dealing with a courtroom battle that brought even more attention to the couple's situation. At this stage, critics say the situation around Harry and Meghan looks increasingly chaotic. The couple has continued reshaping parts of their public projects, including changes connected to Archewell, which shifted its branding from a foundation to philanthropies. Some observers have questioned whether that rebranding actually clarified the organization's mission or simply created more confusion.
I mean, an institutional risk to the British monarchy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. A huge risk.
Really?
Absolutely, because there's no doubt as they become more desperate financially and reputationally and seeking a purpose, they will do some very foolish things. And whatever Andrew has done, they will double the problem because they will not be controllable from London. So I do think that after Andrew, Charles and William do have this problem with the Montecito royals.
Around the same time, Prince Harry was in London's High Court giving testimony in his legal battle with a major newspaper group over alleged phone hacking that reportedly occurred between 2001 and 2013, long before Meghan entered his life. Yet during parts of the testimony, discussion about the impact of media coverage on Meghan also surfaced. Tom Bower argues that this reflects how strongly Harry's public narrative is now connected to his wife. In his interpretation, Harry often frames even older events through the lens of their shared experience with the press. The courtroom moments themselves reportedly became tense. At several points, the judge had to remind Harry to focus on answering questions directly, instead of debating with the opposing lawyer. Observers noted the unusual scene of a royal figure being repeatedly instructed to stay composed during testimony. Meanwhile, Meghan was reportedly back in California, continuing her normal schedule and social media activity. That contrast fueled more commentary online, with critics pointing to the gap between the intense courtroom drama in London and the carefully curated lifestyle image being shared from the United States. In Bower's reporting, these moments all connect to a bigger pattern. He argues the challenges surrounding media projects, business ventures, and public perception aren't isolated incidents, but part of a larger unraveling that critics believe no amount of PR can fully control. According to Tom Bower, the $100 million Netflix deal that once looked like a guaranteed path to global media influence is now being talked about by critics as a cautionary example. In his view, the partnership shows what can happen when massive hype builds around a project before the audience response is fully tested. The original vision sounded huge: multiple hit shows, documentaries, and lifestyle specials that would turn Harry and Meghan into major content producers. But Bower argues the reality has been far less impressive, describing it as a mix of high expectations, uneven execution, and a company closely watching the results. He says Netflix executives were initially open to the collaboration, but streaming platforms rely heavily on hard data. Every project is measured by viewership, engagement, and whether audiences return for more episodes. According to Bower, those numbers simply didn't match the early excitement surrounding the deal. Critics also point to other ventures connected to the brand, including the lifestyle project As Ever. Reports and commentary online have questioned the scale of product inventory and whether demand matched the original marketing buzz. According to Tom Bower, Netflix executives eventually began noticing a clear gap between the early hype and the actual audience response. When that happens in the streaming world, companies often shift strategy quickly and quietly. Bower describes the process with a phrase he calls strategic ghosting. Instead of dramatic public announcements, the partnership simply grows quieter over time. Projects stop moving forward, meetings become less frequent, marketing support fades, and development budgets shrink. From the outside, everything still looks normal, but behind the scenes, the momentum slowly disappears. Sources Bower referenced say this kind of approach is common in large media companies. Rather than creating public conflict, executives allow performance metrics and internal priorities to guide decisions while the partnership gradually winds down.
Come to was never, as Lady Colin Campbell has christened Meghan Markle's lifestyle business. Now, Brittany, you have been on this right from the start. It has been obvious that this business...
Bower also argues the problems developed over time rather than overnight. In his view, the creative direction behind some of the content leaned heavily on polished presentation and big headlines, but struggled to build a strong connection with viewers. In entertainment, curiosity can bring a large audience for the first episode. But long-term success depends on repeat engagement and loyal viewers returning again and again. According to Bower's interpretation of the data, that sustained audience momentum simply never fully materialized. As the situation evolved, critics say the financial pressure around several projects began to grow. Tom Bower argues that once the Netflix partnership lost momentum, other ventures connected to the couple also faced tougher scrutiny. For example, discussions around the lifestyle brand As Ever began focusing on sales performance and inventory levels, while public filings related to Archewell showed changing donation figures from year to year. According to Bower, moments like these can make investors and collaborators more cautious when deciding whether to join future projects. He believes Netflix's quieter approach to stepping back sent a signal throughout the entertainment and business world. When a major partner appears less committed, it can ripple across other ventures tied to the same brand. Bauer also points out what he sees as an irony in the situation. The couple often spoke about building humanitarian initiatives and groundbreaking media content, yet the streaming industry ultimately evaluates projects using hard audience data, real viewers, engagement levels, and measurable results. Those metrics, he argues, are difficult to reshape through publicity alone. While public appearances and social media posts continued projecting confidence, critics say the challenges behind the scenes appeared far more complicated. In Bauer's interpretation, platforms like Netflix act almost like a mirror for media projects, reflecting whether hype translates into lasting audience support or fades once the initial attention passes. According to Tom Bauer, the situation surrounding Harry and Meghan has become a powerful wake-up call about fame, business, and reality. In his view, even the biggest celebrity names, the flashiest contracts, and the most glamorous headlines can't survive for long without real results behind them. Bauer argues that the media empire Meghan once envisioned now appears far more fragile than it did in the early days of their deals. He describes Netflix as a company that simply follows the data, letting viewer numbers and engagement metrics tell the story, rather than responding to publicity campaigns or headlines. He has been making similar warnings for years. In Bauer's telling, the image of Prince Harry becoming emotional during court testimony in London, while Meghan continued sharing curated moments from California, captured a contrast that critics say didn't reflect well on either of them. The public optics, he argues, created another wave of scrutiny around the couple's situation. There are also serious financial questions being raised by commentators. Legal battles in the UK can be extremely expensive, and if Harry were to lose a case, legal costs could potentially climb into the millions of pounds. That possibility has only added more pressure to an already complicated public narrative. Bauer also speculates about the couple's long-term finances. He suggests their lifestyle could require hundreds of millions of dollars to sustain over many years, while Harry's personal wealth has often been estimated in the tens of millions. That doesn't mean they are broke. Far from it. But critics argue that maintaining such a high-profile lifestyle requires steady, successful projects bringing in new income. At the same time, several ventures tied to their brand have faced questions, from the future of streaming partnerships to product sales connected to lifestyle projects, along with earlier podcast deals that didn't continue. In Bauer's view, these challenges together paint a picture of a brand that once generated huge hype, but now faces the harder test of long-term sustainability. Reports have even mentioned fundraising efforts tied to Archewell, including exclusive events where access to meet or dine with Prince Harry was offered for significant donations. Some critics pointed to figures as high as $100,000 per seat at certain charity events. Tom Bauer argues that moves like this reflect the intense pressure to keep funding flowing into their projects. In Bauer's interpretation, it also raises questions about how much the couple's brand still relies on their royal connection. He suggests that when fundraising or public appearances depend heavily on proximity to royal status, it signals how powerful that association still is. Bauer has also commented on Harry's ongoing push for security protection in the UK. Harry argues that the issue is about safety for himself and his family when visiting Britain. But Bauer believes the legal battle also has a broader dimension, potentially tied to maintaining relevance and influence within the UK landscape. At the same time, reports suggest King Charles has maintained firm boundaries regarding financial support, despite the public legal disputes and family tensions. Bauer warns that the current period could be especially sensitive for the royal family. In his view, when income streams become uncertain, there can be strong incentives to monetize interviews, speeches, books, and public appearances, many of which still draw attention because of the couple's connection to the royal institution they once stepped away from. Tom Bauer summed up his view of the situation with a sharp observation. He argues that no public brand can survive forever if it relies mainly on controversy and sympathy. Over time, audiences simply move on, not with anger or outrage, but with indifference. And in media, indifference can be the most damaging reaction of all. According to Bauer, the intense fascination that once surrounded Harry and Meghan has cooled significantly. The headlines are no longer as explosive, the public reaction less emotional, and the spotlight far less forgiving than it was in the beginning. Critics now point to a mix of issues that continue fueling debate. Questions around product inventory tied to lifestyle ventures, courtroom moments involving Prince Harry in London, and financial filings connected to Archewell that sparked regulatory attention in California. For Bauer, these details together tell a larger story. He believes the narrative surrounding the couple has gradually shifted from excitement and massive expectations to a far more complicated reality, one shaped by business results, legal battles, and the long-term challenge of sustaining a global brand. What do you think about this situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next update, because this story is still unfolding.